Hello, everybody. Welcome to At the Coalface Live for 25th of June, 2021. It is awesome to be here with you as usual on a Friday at 4 p.m. New Zealand time and 2 p.m. Australian time. Oftentimes have a cheeky bourbon sitting here while I'm sitting with you, but I'm going for the slightly healthier option today. We're going with an organic kombucha today. I have a bit of an addiction to kombucha, so I'm absolutely loving that and enjoying it. We'll just give a couple of minutes for everybody to join, but it's been an absolutely exciting week, action-packed week in the e-commerce world, as it is every week. COVID has really just put an absolute rocket ship underneath the e-commerce and digital commerce space, omni-channel commerce space, B2B commerce, direct-to-consumer commerce. It's just absolutely caused the industry to explode, and it's like trying to drink out of a fire hose. As a consultant, as an agency, regardless of what area you work in, whether you're a retailer, whether you're a pure play, whether you work for a vendor or a partner or technical partner, or whether you work for an agency of some variety, whether development, technical, branding, marketing, anything pretty much to do with e-commerce and digital is just absolutely under pressure from a resourcing perspective. And it's exciting to see, our industry finally really coming into its own. And instead of having to kind of drag customers and kicking and screaming towards a digital future, they're coming to us now. They're coming to most of us in the industry and saying, hey, how can we do this faster? How can we accelerate our digital transformation? How can we, either set up e-commerce for the very first time in our business, or how can we dramatically accelerate our capability and adoption of e-commerce within the business, and how can we engage with our customers digitally much better and much more efficiently? So bringing digital capability into businesses is absolutely the buzz of the day, the buzz of the month, the buzz of the year, the buzz of the last 18 months with COVID. So it's really, really exciting to see. And just before we kick off here, I'll just remind everybody that basically the way the format works, I'll run through some really key news items of the week that have happened in our space, give my sort of take on that, and then we'll save all of the Q&A if anybody posts any questions or anything like that. Q&A, ask me anything type of deal at the end of the broadcast. So I'll save that for the last 5 to 10 minutes if there are any. If not, then you guys can obviously look back at this stream in hindsight, because it will be broadcasting, as always, to LinkedIn, to Facebook, and to YouTube. So it's awesome to be here with you guys today. And without further ado, I will get into some of the key news items of the week as we look at it through a bit of a cheeky lens. So the first news item is a little bit of a downer, but if we look at the big picture, it's probably a positive for e-commerce. And that is that there's been a new announcement in Sydney, Australia, that the CBD will be shut down over the next week as COVID cases worsen. Now, that in and of itself is not that startling of a news story, just because we've had right throughout the whole of the world, we've had country level, sort of state level, for countries that have states, regional level, city level, and even sub-city level, rolling lockdowns globally, really, even as the world starts to get COVID under control. So that's really not new news. But what it does signify is that there was an expectation, I think, by many pundits and people that are playing in our industry and working in our industry that, once vaccines rolled out and everything else, regardless of what your sort of opinion and take is on vaccination, I have my own take on that. But, regardless of what your opinion was, the pundit said, look, once we roll out vaccines globally, pretty much things are going to get back to normal very quickly. And it's going to be business as usual. And therefore, we expect in 2021 that the skyrocketing demand for e-commerce is going to decrease versus 2020, when the world was still in the throes of COVID. And I think what this Sydney shutdown reminds us is that while the world is getting back to some semblance of normalcy, global travel is still dramatically restricted. The travel bubble between us and Australia was shut back down again, and will be shut down, I think it is, for the entire week, or at least from New South Wales to Australia and vice versa. So, and we've got massive global travel restrictions. Although we've got a bubble with Australia, there's many other countries we can't fly to without having to go into quarantine there, and then also return home without going into quarantine in New Zealand. So I think what this symbolizes and signifies is the fact that I believe, and those of us who are working in the industry, what we're actually seeing at the coalface of what we're working on a day-to-day basis is that the elevated demand for digital and e-commerce, both from the end customer perspective and from a skill and resourcing perspective in the industry, it is not decreasing. If anything, it's continuing to increase as formal budget allocations and reallocations are happening in 2021 versus 2020, where everything was up in the air in 2020. Every businesses kind of almost stopped operating like deer in headlights in some respects, whereas now they kind of know the new normal is going to definitely be elevated. We don't necessarily know exactly what the new normal looks like, but we know that digital and e-commerce adoption has probably been brought forward by about 10 years. Therefore, we need to bring our investments in digital and e-commerce capability forward by about 10 years. And as a result of that, massive budget reallocations, massive skill reallocations, massive dislocation of talent in the market, as maybe traditional expertise that was working agency side goes and starts to work and start their own businesses because they want to work from home or they want to have more freedom. And now everybody's used to working on Zoom anyway. So, there's a lot of dislocation and reallocation of resources happening in our industry. And I think this latest lockdown in Sydney really just reinforces the fact that this is going to continue in this heightened elevation of demand for e-commerce and digital commerce, both skills, resources, as well as end consumer expectations around the experiences that they expect out of the brands that they engage with. E-commerce is just an absolute baseline expectation, and going beyond that, because most of those end consumers already transact with the likes of the Amazons and the eBays and the big massive the Walmarts and the big retailers of the world, or down in this part of the world, they're engaging with the warehouse group, and they're engaging with some of the other massive retailers down here. And as a result of that, the baseline of the minimum expectation around the online experience is increasing because they're seeing more of those. They're seeing more of those expectations. They're seeing more of those experiences in the market, and as a result of that, they have more frame of reference, more frame of comparison, and so their last best experience becomes their new baseline expectation. And as a result of that, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing increased customer expectations around the digital experience, and that's set to continue as everybody lifts their game and the rising tide floats all boat of e-commerce. So moving on to the next major piece of news was Amazon Prime Day, which is actually an Amazon Prime 2 days. It's a bit of a misnomer to call it Prime Day. That happened this week, Monday and Tuesday in the United States. And by all accounts, sales growth, not sales themselves, underlying sales grew versus Prime Day 2020. However, the rate of growth was slightly softer in 2021 versus 2020 versus the year-over-year growth between 2019 and 2020. Now, one of the reasons for that was because of COVID, there was 15 months between Prime Day 2019 and 2020, whereas there was only roughly 8 months between Prime Day 2020 and Prime Day 2021. So I guess the pent-up demand was less this time around than the previous Prime Day. That's the first thing that impacted things. And then when we start to look at other brands and other retailers sort of jumping on the Prime Day bandwagon and aligning their biggest sale days or the biggest promotional days of the year to line up strategically with Prime Day itself, I think we see a lot of the siphoning action of other brands being able to capture certain percentage of demand that maybe historically would have only ever gone to Amazon. They've strategically aligned their promotions to wrap around and sort of time box Prime Day. And as a result of that, we are seeing some siphoning and we are seeing some across the board benefits to other brands as a result of the Prime Day marketing, the Prime Day advertising that Amazon is doing. However, having said that, Amazon is still a beast. They're an absolute juggernaut. They've actually disclosed very limited information around sales for this year, and that's what also is leading the major, I guess, industry pundits to say that maybe Prime Day wasn't as good this year, mainly because They haven't released a lot of data, hard data around their sales, but the key data that they did release was pretty telling. So they said they sold 250 million items, which is a 20% 2-year compound annual growth rate over versus 175 million items sold in Prime Day 2019. Now, the other thing that's worth pointing out about this year's Prime Day and some of the tailwinds, or I should say headwinds, that Amazon was fighting this year was that Canada and India did not participate this year due to COVID, because they were pretty much completely locked down due to the rapid growth in COVID cases over the last month. So, whilst two massive regions in the world, two buying regions in the world, who have high e-commerce adoption rates didn't participate this year, they still managed to grow dramatically in that compound annual growth rate metric. So when we look at some of the other metrics and some of the other data coming out of some of the other research houses, it still shows that Amazon did amazingly well this year. There was one research house that said that GMV came in at 9.55 billion roughly, or up 7% versus last year, and they estimate that 2020 grew 54% year over year versus 2019. So to go from 54% growth rate to 7% growth rate by any other measure for any other retailer, that would be an absolute disaster. But when you look at the aggregate numbers that Amazon has done, sure, the growth maybe wasn't as radical, but just the sheer total numbers that they have done is just mind-blowing. I mean, really, when we look at, nearly $10 billion worth of sales over a 2-day period, pretty impressive. And then when we look at Adobe Analytics, which came out with a research report, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, they said that all up e-commerce sales in the United States, including Amazon competitors, was around 11 billion during the 2-day event. So if we put up 9.5 billion by Amazon and we look at the grand total of about 11 billion, when you are getting well over 90%, or you're capturing well over 90% of the e-commerce revenue over a given sales period, it is pretty striking just how powerful Amazon's numbers were for Prime Day. So, certainly maybe they didn't grow as fast as everybody thought they would this year. Shorter Prime Day window, only 8 months between last one and this one. India and Canada not participating, and possibly a little bit of headwinds around some of the sentiment change in the market around customers wanting to do business with Amazon, but Amazon still being the absolute 800-pound gorilla in the space and doing just cracking numbers this year for Prime Day. So massive change this year. Anyways, next piece of news, pretty big piece of news, or very interesting news, is that Singapore Airlines has launched a world first, or they say it's a world first, live in-flight online store. Now, as we know, almost all of the major airlines, they've got their own online stores. When you look at Air New Zealand, you look at Qantas, they've all kind of got their own online stores. But what makes this apparently a bit of an online first is that there is a real-time integration, in-flight real-time integration between the online store and the ground. And so what that means is that what you're seeing in terms of stock levels and prices and everything else in their online store while you're flying is in real time. So instead of just being able to buy maybe stuff on board the plane, i.e. food, drinks, entertainment, etc., and then also being able to pay for internet connectivity to where you can connect to their online store and then make purchases through it, they are actually providing the air-to-ground connection for their online store, for goods in their online store, so that you're actually seeing everything in real time and transacting with their website in real time, despite the fact that you maybe 30,000 feet in the air. So it's a pretty impressive, I guess, a sea change that's happening in air travel, and the recognition by Singapore Airlines that people do want to continue to shop while they're in the air, while they're looking at an in-flight magazine, or while they're looking at something digital online. They want to be able to shop in real time in the air, maybe using their airpoints dollars through Singapore Airlines. So all of this deep integration, air to ground, they say is a world first. So it's pretty interesting, and they call it the KRIS shop, KRIS shop. They say that it connects directly to the aircraft's in-flight entertainment system, enables live updates, product inventory updates, and real-time credit card authorization as well, all from the air. So really, they're recognizing that people want to shop everywhere, all the time, from the comfort of wherever they happen to be in ingesting their entertainment. So we're going to see more of this. I think we're probably going to get to a place sometime within the next 5 to 10 years, bigger picture here, where in-flight internet either becomes completely free as a value add by some airlines, or becomes greatly subsidized by the airlines, because the reality is consumers and particularly for business people that are flying, they expect to have global internet connectivity at all time, even when they are flying between destinations. So I think that's something that's going to come to the industry, and I think it's been a long time coming. So I think they're breaking new ground here, and obviously they've been able to make the economics work of this, air to ground. So the rest of internet connectivity, either free or at a subsidized price, can't be far behind. There was a pretty big announcement this week, both by Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, as well as the local Facebook boss for ANZ, Kate Box, which is that Facebook aims to be the new Westfield. So really, they're onboarding some new initiatives and some new technology around commerce, where they want to be effectively the new digital mall. They want to be in everybody's home and everybody's device, and they want to be the default go-to place for shopping. So the two key things here is there was two major components to this announcement. So one was that Facebook Shops is coming to Facebook Marketplace, and Facebook is also coming to WhatsApp as well. So what this means is that at the moment, Facebook Marketplace really is primarily targeted at end consumers selling peer-to-peer. However, what they're doing is they're creating the shop model within Facebook Marketplace to court more business sellers, because Marketplace is a digital and e-commerce marketplace. However, it's a used goods marketplace currently primarily, and they want to court more brand new products being sold via the marketplace, being sold by traditional e-commerce merchants. So by extending the shops model and the shops integration in marketplace, and also bringing that to WhatsApp, it makes it much, much easier for merchants to sell via those channels. So that's a biggie. Now, at the moment, merchants really only have the ability to place advertising spots in Facebook Marketplace, but by having an actual virtual marketplace presence, a shop front within Marketplace, it allows them to get their eyeballs in their shop in front of more eyeballs of the marketplace. Plus, it gives Facebook the ability to not just sell ads in Marketplace, but also to clip the ticket on transactions that happen between businesses and consumers in their own marketplace. So pretty amazing stuff out of Facebook. They're going hammer and tongs at commerce. They're going hammer and tongs at creator tooling and connecting creators to end consumers. And this is just one more piece, one more Lego piece in the path to world domination by Facebook of commerce. Now, the next big piece of news by them is that they are bringing visual search to Instagram. Now, what this means is that users and consumers will be able to basically shop across the internet, grab images off the internet of their favorite products, or ultimately take a picture in real life of a product that they want to buy. They'll be able to search for that product or similar products across Instagram, and then content as well as Instagram shop products will also be exposed to them through that visual search environment. So this is really taking the concept of Google Lens, which also has visual search capabilities, and Facebook effectively building its own version of Google Lens, and being able to merge visual shopping and visual search with all of the commerce capabilities of Instagram. So pretty big announcements out of Facebook land this week. So keep an eye on Facebook, because they are absolutely going hammer and tongs at commerce. And what this starts to give us is a sneak peek at Facebook's plan for a post third-party cookie world. So this is where they're clearly heading. Speaking of third-party cookies and the death of third-party cookies and the tiz that is throwing the entire marketplace into, Google announced today that, or was it late yesterday? I think it was either late yesterday or today, that they have again delayed the death of third-party cookies in Chrome. So it's given a brief reprieve to the market. And so the initial cutoff date of 2022 has now been extended to late 2023. So although they don't give an exact date, they say that it is now going to be pushed it back to late 2023. Oh, how generous, Google. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, the industry is breathing a short-term sigh of relief as Google gets everybody a bit of breathing space to come out with their cookieless tracking technology or third-party cookie equivalent tracking technology. So the reality is privacy, quote unquote, privacy still the focus for Google, for Apple, for Facebook. It's really entrenching their ecosystem. But the reality is there was a lot of squealing. And I think this probably, to be honest, even though the news doesn't say this specifically, the announcement by Google doesn't specifically say this, I think it's probably more about the fact that Google's own cookieless tracking technology, Flock, and a couple of the other things that they're working on is probably not ready to go either. And so I think what they're saying is, hey, not only is the rest of the industry saying we need a bit of a delay to get our tech up to speed with new types of tracking technology that is privacy compliant and is going to make consumers happy, but that's an admission, I believe, more than anything else, that Google itself is not ready with its own third-party cookieless tracking technology. Now, they have tons of first-party data. They have universal single sign-on technology that everybody across the internet uses. They've got plenty of technology. They got plenty of apps in the market that billions of people use, and so therefore they're not really worried about having access to first-party data because they have plenty of authenticated data that they can use anyway. But I think they want to have a replacement, even within their own ecosystem, that they can go to market with, that the market will buy into as a replacement for third-party cookies. And I just think they're not there yet. So going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. From a more personal perspective for me, we had at the Coalface podcast, we had our latest episode drop on Thursday with Juliana Jackson of OmniConvert. She is an absolute dynamo. She's an absolute powerhouse when it comes to CLV, customer lifetime value, average order values, RFM modeling, CAC, customer acquisition costs, CDP tech, personalization tech, segmentation, marketing, digital marketing, and how brands can better deal with the advent of the death of third-party cookies and how they can better leverage their existing zero and first-party data to both market to, but more importantly, serve their customers better. That episode dropped on Thursday. So if you haven't listened to it yet, you're in for a real treat. I spent over an hour with Juliana, and she dropped some absolute truth bombs and the odd F-bomb while she was at it. So you're going to really enjoy this one. So please check it out. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Coalface podcast on pretty much every single podcast engine on the internet. It's available. So go and check that one out. I am also speaking at the ITX Innovation Day in Auckland next month. So if you're in Auckland and you're looking at potentially attending, hopefully I'll see you there. It's the ITX Innovation Days Auckland. They're running throughout the country, but I'll only be speaking at the Auckland event. I think they're Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, and Dunedin, I think, is the four cities that they'll be running in. So I think I might be, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I might be the only e-commerce speaker at the entire event. I think pretty much everyone else is speaking about IT, specific topics, security, and really hardcore IT, internal IT. So really looking forward to that event. Looking forward to the Retail Global New Zealand event in August in Queenstown at the end of August 17th through the 19th, I think is the date there. And I'll be speaking at that event. I'll be on a panel, and I also have got a quick fire round that I'm going to be speaking at as well. So starting to put together my program for that. Really looking forward to it. I'm really hoping that the bubble between New Zealand and Australia stays open so that our friends from across the ditch that want to come across and have actually bought tickets to come across can come across. This is one of the only in-person e-commerce focused events of the entire year this year in New Zealand, and it is the first one I will attend this year. So I'm really looking forward to catching up with all of my industry friends, colleagues, retailers, etc., down at Retail Global New Zealand in Queenstown. Queenstown, beautiful place. Going to do some skiing while I'm down there. So really looking forward to it. Also, one final note, please check out the Coalface Digest. That is our premium newsletter where basically I, through my connections in the world of e-commerce, the both personal and private sources, I bring together on a monthly digest. I bring the monthly e-commerce news into one singular e-commerce newsletter, and I give all of my take, my insights, my breakdown of those biggest news stories of the month into the newsletter. And I also send out occasional e-alerts for time-sensitive and bigger time-sensitive announcements. I send out short e-alerts throughout the month as well. So get on over, just Google at the Coalface Digest and get your subscription. And I look forward to seeing you guys in your inbox once, or actually more than that, multiple times per month. So really looking forward to catching up with you guys there. I don't see any comments or questions on the stream coming in from Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube here. So obviously no questions today, no Ask Me Anything today. So I'll finish off a couple of minutes early here. It is 4:27 p.m. New Zealand time. I'll get some fresh, tasty, organic kombucha in me. Thank you for spending your time with me on this Friday. I really do enjoy it. I'm enjoying this live stream format. You know, it kind of gives me an opportunity to freeform and freestyle a little bit. So look forward to continuing to do this each and every Friday at 4 p.m. New Zealand time, 2 p.m. Australian time, and then you can work out all of your local times from there. So please put it in your calendar. Put this time slot in your calendar every week if you want to join me and you want to take part in the end of the broadcast and you want to drop your comments, drop your questions into LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. Put it in your calendar. Come and join me every single Friday, and I would love to see you here, and I would love to interact with you. So thanks very much, guys. Have a good rest of your Friday, and we will talk to you soon.